Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 4 of our September monthly intensive. Toward the very end of yesterday's conversation, um, the interesting consideration was brought up whether we we are in life part of the time and other parts of the time in this conversation about who essentially we are, or whether all of life happens within us. And so, get a chance to think about it between the end of yesterday's session and today. And I want to start off by, asking you to take a few moments to settle into yourself, relax, close your eyes if you're so inclined. And like many of the tools we explored in the past, the plant your flag is the knowing of yourself, is the presence of awareness, or even as we've discussed more recently, just go to that which you know is true without doubt, that you exist and that you are aware. So as you rest in the knowing of yourself as this presence, this aware presence, gently confirm for yourself once again that this this knowing awareness that you are, this Buddha nature that you are, is that which is aware of the entire content of your experience. You're hearing these words, you are that which is knowing the hearing of these words or any other sounds around you. If you're thinking about what I'm saying, or if you have distracting thoughts, you are that which is knowing the thoughts you're thinking. You're that which is knowing what you're touching, any sort of things you can feel with your body. Perhaps there's an emotional feeling that you're aware of. But even in how I term that, you are that which is aware of that feeling. And as you rest in the awareness of your being right now, it should be fairly clear that all those things you're aware of are in constant motion, arising, shifting, hanging out for a bit, perhaps morphing into something else, vanishing. While your awareness remains unbroken. So, this knowing of the content of your experience, this awareness that you are right now, this obviously, is what it's like to be in this conversation. Notice the degree of peace, contentment, that is there and available to be felt and understood while we're in this conversation. The degree of peace that's behind all the elements of your experience. Just allow yourself to rest in that for a moment. Now, from this place of the knowing of your own being as this aware presence, think of some activity you have to do maybe later today or in the next day or so. Something that you would casually refer to as something I do in life. And consider from where you are now in the peace of your own being, to move to this activity in life. Do you cross some kind of threshold where you leave the peace of your being and then go into life? Does this being who you recognize right now, who you are behind all of your experience, does that go somewhere else and you become something that's in life? Where would the line of demarcation be between in life and knowing of your own being right now be? How would you know when you cross from one zone of awareness into the other zone of being in life? Where would these separate realms exist? And what would separate them? is in life a separate place from where you are now, a place with its own existence? When you are in life, is your experience made of something other than seeing and hearing, touching, tasting, smelling, feeling, and thinking? Or is experience known in the same way in both of these seemingly separate realms? In order for us to be in life sometimes when we're not in this conversation overtly, then life would have to be a place detached from us that we would sometimes have access to, other times depart from. But where would in life be when we weren't experiencing it? Or in the final analysis, they say, is it just possible that in life, like in this conversation, the entirety of our experience is just the knowing of our senses, of our perceptive capacities, all the various thought forms. And there's a subset of these perceptions and sensations and thoughts that have a certain flavor to them, and that our mind attaches the label, oh, that's in life. And if that's the case, isn't it perhaps more accurate to say that in life and in the conversation, and everything in between is appearing within me, known within me, made of the knowing that is me. So allow yourself to just sit with that consideration. Allow yourself to come slowly back to our discussion. Did any of that contemplation address any of the stuff we talked about yesterday for you? Any questions that may have arisen from yesterday?
You asking me?
And any of the multitudes who are here, which would include you?
Me and Janice are the same. Well, it's seems to be more clear as far as when I say me. In this discussion, I'm talking about the infinite nature of awareness, a knowing element of the infinite knowing element. And so it would make sense that everything must be appearing within that. So if I am that, then yeah, that life is appearing within me. Sure makes sense. So I understand why you got frustrated all those months. So don't you hear what I'm saying?
No frustration whatsoever.
Well, not frustrated, but yeah, just it's kind of like defining. I mean, we've taken these steps, like, feeling the nature of I am, and then kind of lately it feels like we've defined it, at least in my understanding level of that, there's something that you say quite often, well, what knows that and what knows that, so it's kind of this unlimited knowing.
Yeah.
And we're associating that's what I am is. Yeah. So it almost feels like experience is just like this, what do they call the film, like the old-fashioned, well, I don't know, maybe the same as it always was, but this film is being fed into, which is experience being fed into the I am knowingness, and it just does its little feed. But yeah, it's like it's being fed into I am.
Yeah.
But so it's not separate though. It's made of, so.
The thing that creates the illusion of separateness is that not only are these elements of experience, we see things and hear things and touch and taste and smell, and there's sensations and feelings going on. But we've learned early on to weave a story that there's an individual called a me that this is happening to. And we have such a solid belief in that limited character being us we don't realize that character as well is just something appearing in the unlimited us. This conceptual me is so strong, and yet the more we look at it, we see that it doesn't have any integrity to the thought structure of it. It's an ever shifting thing. You know, the kind of person we think we are has never been a singular steady thing. It's always been a changing cluster of thoughts about ourselves. But without examination, it's really seemed like that's a real thing. And that conceptual me is the very singular cause of all of our suffering. And whereas most philosophical explorations or self-help programs or practices of various kinds will be about trying to improve the feeling state of that imagined character, we're actually seeing through the erroneous belief in that imagined character. And when that dissolves, then all of the seeming things that imagined character was victimized by dissolves with the vanishing belief of that character, in that character. When we talk about going into life, that belief in that character is ginned up in solid belief again, as a thing going into a separate world filled with other actual characters and circumstances and situations. And so it seems like, oh, now I'm in this other arena of my life where something's different than this ever-present Buddha nature that I am, or this ever-present awareness that I am. So I'm trying to be more pointed about it this time. This month's intensive, to really bust through the solidity of that illusion of that separate entity we believe ourselves to be. And just as always, if I'm talking past you guys, or where it's like, wait a minute, you need to stop or ask anything, please don't let me keep prattling on if something isn't clear.
Yes, the part that gets a little confusing is, so if there's like a one continuous Buddha nature,
Okay.
right? That is shared with everything, right?
Yeah. Well,
And then,
yeah. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. I want to come back to even that expression, but yes, go ahead.
go ahead, say something about that expression.
Well, again, because words are so flimsy, it could sound like oh, there's my neighbor across the street. Oh, have some of my Buddha nature too. I'm sharing that with you, and I'm going to share some of this thing that I possess called the Buddha nature with everybody. I think it will do us a greater service if we start thinking of it of, it's not, we're not sharing this Buddha nature with other individuals. All there is the Buddha nature, or whatever term you want to give to the all of everything. All there is that, and us and everybody else and all other things are just temporary formulations of that. We derive what seems like a individual existence from that. We don't share that nature with other people as an activity. We are just all made of the same stuff. Like you know, the words on one page of a book don't actively have to share their being of the book with the words on the other side of the page. It's just all made of the same thing.
Right. So I think we could take that leap and say it's all made of the same thing. But clearly, we know, or what it seems to be is, Janice is a female, I'm a male. Janice has certain thoughts, I have other thoughts. So that's where it gets, like, if we zero in on, we're all made of the same thing. And at the same, and we got to say and, right? Because this is our experience, is that, Janice can talk and I can talk, and they'll seem like very different experiences going on. So it's almost like we got to somehow create some clarity there. That how is it so differentiated when it's made of the same thing? So, that's the question. That's kind of what I've been pondering. It's like, okay, it's made of the same thing.
Yeah.
But it sure seems like we're all having these very different experiences. So where does experience really, I don't know what to think of that. Is it just the Buddha nature? It's just the makeup of the Buddha nature. The Buddha nature is able to have 8 billion experiences simultaneously. I mean, it's hard to grasp that.
Yeah. And again, I realize this could sound like a broken record, and I don't care. When you're grappling with it, but feeling like you're not grasping it, and when you're going to the bathroom when this call is over, and when you're doing whatever activity you have to do later, at any point, does your existence cease?
No.
Yeah. So all of your experience in its various forms are this blend of conception and perception. And yet this existence that you know without doubt that you are just is. So even reasonably sounding statements like, oh, Janice is a female, I'm a male, all this stuff, none of that is absolutely true. All of those are just temporary descriptions given to temporary forms. Nobody is anything. Everybody just is. And any description given to who they are is not a permanent thing with, without beginning or end. The only thing that they are without beginning or end is just that they are. There's just the Buddha nature, or the mystic law, or consciousness, or the all of everything. But the nature of the all of everything is that it keeps making new forms and dissolving old forms. It's like the nature of the water is that it's wet, but it's just, all the waves and currents and stuff in the ocean are just the temporary formulations of the permanent ocean.
All right, well, that, you just said the nature of the Buddha nature is
Activity.
It's activity, making form and dissolving form. So, I mean, I guess that's the answer to what is experience.
You've convinced me.
Somehow this aware existence has activity. I mean, it's just simply that. It's having activity. And, yeah, we have the capacity to conceptualize or make a construct or a thought out of this activity. And we think it's something that it's probably just a story after another story, after another thought, after another feeling, after another construct.
But if you once again return to that within which all of these constructs are known, what do you find there?
The Buddha nature.
Okay, and what is your experience of that?
Just
Is it frenetic and disturbing?
no.
Yeah. So a lot of this line of inquiry was catalyzed by something Janice said yesterday, and so I'm curious, did any of what we're talking about today, Janice, does it address any of what we were puzzling over yesterday, or has this become a snake eating its own tail?
I'm sorry, what is your question again?
Has any of what we've talked about today been helpful in light of what we were talking about yesterday, or did it become all confusing again, or is there anything?
No, what you talked about today, for me, took it to a level that I could relate to. You were getting more into the unlimited self and the nature of it than just the self, and imagining, what it's going to be like, and what do I, like constructing another activity that hasn't even happened. Yeah, that life, life is a powerful word. I put that on someone who passed away, their their head marker, life, love, music, and someone's almost last breath. And I just think it's such a powerful word, because life is why we are here. We're living it. we're breathing it, we're, you know, participating in it. We are it at this moment. So the energy, you know, everybody has a unique thing, but I'm fascinated with the here and now at the moment. Because you take it to another level, Joel. This is just amazing how you know, kind of elevate the whole experience. But you know, when I walk away and you know, you're not there and I'm listening to you, I think, okay, you know, how does this, you know, it's just kind of a depth that you can't explain. You just kind of just keep continuing on with it. But for instance, I did this quickly, mindful writing meditation, not a mindful writing class for students. And this professor who's written, you know, she's got awards and has written a lot of different books, etc., you know, was actually having all of these teachers meditate in the here and now, and then talking about this river, that, you know, the river, and you know, all of this terminology, you know, right here, right now, where are you right here, right now, and over and over and over, to open up the flow, to get into not the to the you know, the inner part of you that flows, and the mind, when you were talking earlier about your thoughts and letting it flow. And you were talking a lot about that, and it really makes sense, because it does open up these types of conversation does, you know, open up. And all of this is really wonderful. But then when I walk out my door and I see someone I know who definitely has me categorized into a, or she has the wall of limitation, you know, and I'm so aware of her wall of limitation that, but I don't want to be judgmental, because if like you say, if you see it, then there is it, you know, and I don't want to create the wall between somebody, you know. And those kind of things concern me, you know, like we can know where, and I think that's what we should be. We should be more in tune with our unlimited Buddha nature. And you can't really worry about where the other person is at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're talking about the very, like, right on the razor's edge of what it is that the whole purpose of this intensive is about, or the whole purpose of this ongoing conversation is about. And I think even in this last recounting of your realization and concern just now, I want to invite you to consider this question. So we just had a nice meditative like exercise, and Jimmy and I had a discussion about it. And then maybe in 10 minutes, you will walk out your door and you might run into somebody. Do you ever leave your being in order to walk out the door and engage with people? Is it possible that you could leave your being?
Yeah, of course not. No.
Right. And I realize the kind of nature to that question, but I think that that's something to pay attention to. Because the more it sets in that, oh, I can't leave here and now, I can't leave this space of awareness, it's inseparable from who I am always. The more that just becomes grooved into my knowing of myself, that now influences all of my interactions with other people. I won't have to worry about being judgmental or not being judgmental. I will just be experiencing people as knowing myself as awareness. If a judgment arises as a thought, I'll know that, oh, I'm aware of a thought that's judgment. And then I don't have to engage with it. I don't have to manage my thoughts so that I'm judgmental or not judgmental. All of it can arise because that's what it does. It arises, yet I, the space within which it arises, am unlimited and unbroken. I'm consistent.
Now,
I'm stable.
that's a great way to look at it. That it's an appearing in me and I am aware of it, and just let it be. And let it be the knowing of that moment.
And
Okay, yeah.
even my temporary forgetting of it, which we will all continue to do from time to time, is taking place within my knowing of forgetting. It's not possible for me to leave myself. I can only have a thick temporary cloud that obscures my seeing that that's who I am. But even when I'm not seeing it, that sun, S-U-N, of me is never disappeared just because that cloud of forgetting is there. So our conversation going forward is to groove in this new habit of knowing ourselves so that this understanding gradually takes root as our felt understanding. And as a result of that felt understanding, then this Buddha nature that seemed to be in the background of life, sometimes I remember, sometimes I forget, but it's there in the background, is going to start to spill over into the foreground more and more of all kinds of experiences of life.
Can you say that again, Joel?
I hope so.
It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. So more and more through our conversation lately, we've become acquainted with the Buddha nature that seems to be there behind all of our perceptions, all of our sensations, all of our thoughts. We touch it a lot during the conversation. We have a peaceful conversation. Sometimes we're brought back from momentary freak out and brought back to that peace. But also what's happening is we're creating a new habit of, new conditioning of our thinking, so that this Buddha nature or peace that has seemed to be in the background of all experience is going to spill over into the foreground, even when stuff that seemed intense and disturbing in the past, when those kind of things come up, the peace in the background will also be part of that experience now. This is a natural byproduct of continuing to look towards the nature of who we are. When we each come up with our unique pointer back to, oh, I have no doubt that I exist and my existence is aware. Whatever phrase works for you, plant your flag, blah, 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 whatever that is, that's going to become more and more part of your daily living. That's going to be the foundation of how you now experience people that seem judgmental toward you, or you felt judgmental toward, or any other sort of interaction you would have with people. It's going to be taking place in a more expansive knowing of yourself as the Buddha nature, just as a matter of course from this continual exploration.
Yeah, no, I can. Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. Moving forward, yeah, definitely. Focus on that for you. So you want us to kind of like be more focused on I exist and I'm aware. The goal, you said the goal was being into the being through this exploration yesterday. So is that the goal?
So I want to really be careful with words like goals, because I don't want to suggest that there's something different from what you are now that you need to get to. And I don't want to suggest at all that there's a point B. There's not one shred of anything you require still in order to be knowing existence. So the only gentle intention of this conversation is just to point back to the knowing of that, and letting the knowing of that do its own magic in the arena of your life. So there's no mental strain to focus more. Oh, I didn't focus enough, and yesterday I focused more, so I wish today was more like yesterday. All that kind of stuff, we could just let it go. Just gently point ourselves back to the knowing of who we are, and that's it. Now, you and I both happen to have a daily practice in which there's an opportunity to, the myo of myoho means to open to the knowing of who we are, but it doesn't have to be a grind of any kind. It's just an opportunity to do that.
Right.
And we don't have to only do that when we're doing a formal practice. It's more and more our life just becomes indistinguishable from spiritual practice.
So it's the boundless, border. It's fascinating to have that. I just think that's just such a great perspective to have with the body, that we have this boundless border. It's not even a border, but I guess that
it's borderless, boundless and borderless.
I'm not even thinking then. Boundless, borderless. Yeah.
Like I know
actually there's no grading in awareness, so we don't get grades in awareness.
You don't.
Just kind of like let it float on the river, right?
Well, and there's also no letting go in awareness. So I think all we're doing is, in a sense, understanding or being aware of being aware. It's just being aware. We don't need to let go of anything.
Well, you would have to be holding on to a separate thing in order to let go of it. And right. since there aren't separate things, actually, there's nothing either to hold on to or to let go. But because of the limited nature of words, we may say let go of a thought, that whatever.
Yeah.
Because we haven't come up with better ways to say it.
I think what we're doing in this intensive is because sure, that idea of letting go, I mean, that there's a lot of that going on out there, but we're just kind of really just being aware of awareness. That's all we're doing.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. It's so funny. I don't know if I said this to you, but my wife says, whenever she comes in the room, she says, you seem like you're always talking about the same thing. And I said, well, we are. It's like, it's kind of, it takes some repetition, but it's such a nice thing to talk about. Like, why not talk about it over and over and again?
Yeah, it never fails to interest me how the interest in the topic catches hold with people at different times, and then other people, it just kind of goes whoop, or some people are there for a bit and then something happens, and there's nobody in charge of it, and there's nobody in control of it. Its understanding itself is just expressing itself in all of these myriad forms that appear to be a you and a me and an everybody else.
I mean, it would be interesting because we're leading into tomorrow. It's like, why can we talk about this over and over and over and over and over again? That may be a interesting and I think it's two things. Maybe one is because it's maybe not that easy to understand until it is. And
Yeah.
then it's such a nice thing to talk about. I don't know. I mean, could be an interesting discussion.
Well, if you're game, jot down a point or two about this that you seem to think is a reason for it, and we could discuss it tomorrow. I'll throw this out as a catalyst. Even on this practical level of time and what have you, we've spent decades layering upon layer upon layer of thoughts that are based on not seeing this. And not seeing this is still deeply rooted in a lot of our activities, our relationships with our families, and on and on and on. And also, whatever emotional history we've had that maybe our body is still clinging on to, but we don't know the underlying cause of it. So every time we do have a discussion about it, we touch this piece of our own being. It's so refreshing compared to the layers of conditioning that still linger. Then, until more layers seem to dissolve, this conversation is going to be of interest for quite some time. And that's okay. It's actually lovely.
Well, it may, almost be like getting a massage, to touch this layer of being. Right. Feels good. I mean, it actually feels good. I mean, it's got to be one of the reasons we keep showing up on this call.
Yeah, because not only does it feel good, we're recognizing more and more that even under feeling bad is feeling good. That's the astonishing thing to me. If we don't know what it is we're talking about, we will only look to feel good and go through these cycles of feeling good and feeling bad, feeling good and feeling bad. But now what we recognize, which I think perpetuates some of our interest in it, is, oh, even when I'm feeling bad, that's happening within feeling good.
Yeah.
So, food for thought.
Sounds like a good rap song. Feeling bad is happening within feeling good. And
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Cool, you guys.
A nice beat to it.
see y'all.
Let's come up with a song by the end of this, and we'll use it.
Yeah, right.
Have a wonderful day.
All right. Ciao.
Talk to you guys later.